Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Brant Day, founder and head creative for Wattle and Daub, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, Brant. Thanks for being on the show. Great to meet you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Can't wait to see where this conversation goes.
Same here. Well, before we get started and diving into all things business, let's share a bit about you with our audience. So take us back as far as you like and share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so it could be a long answer. I'll try and keep it nice and sweet, short and sweet. I come from Atlanta, Georgia originally. I grew up in a very art-centered house. My dad was a graphic designer, owned his own design firm. That's a lot of what my inspiration and background come from. I grew up working with him, and I went through school, college, sort of knowing that I wanted to um, do design and focus on design and illustration. Graduated from BYU, Idaho. Started my career in Minnesota at a place called the Nerdery, and have been focusing on web design, brand design, illustration ever since. There's twists and turns in there, but overall, that's a fairly good overview of where I've been so far until here.
Oh, that is very cool. Well, we have a lot in common because I graduated with a graphic design degree as well, in the Midwest. And so, yeah, I'm very excited for this conversation. So let's kind of dive into Wattle and Daub. Now, how did Wattle and Daub start? You're the like sole founder or was there a partnership? Like, give me the brief on Wattle and Daub.
Yeah, great question. So Waddle and Daub started kind of from college in the get-go. I knew that my end goal in the long run would be much like what my own father had done, would be to open up my own creative studio, a creative agency. And so in all my times and other jobs and opportunities, I had set up a separate entity to do some moonlighting or some additional work, knowing that from my dad's experience that it was smart to build a presence if that was your end goal, to slowly build your presence, build relationships, and find opportunities to separate some of those relationships, from the other, things that you were doing, right? To kind of create your black book of clients, I guess, if you will, if and when the opportunity came for you to go off on your own and start your own thing. So, Waddle and Daub came up as an exercise one day and trying to figure out how I wanted to name myself. It's a common in writing and in illustration. You'll see that artists will create pen names. They'll create sort of sub names, illustration names, and sometimes they'll do it to create personas that allow them to write in certain styles or draw or create in certain styles that perhaps their main persona is not known for. Um, and so that was sort of the idea behind Waddle and Daub, was to create an entity that I could do things out of, while still kind of getting my feet wet in the world of design agencies and interaction design studios and all that sort of stuff. And I looked for a name. Wattle and Daub is a sustainable architecture practice where a wattle is a interlaced set of twigs that you create, and then you daub mud, concrete, adobe over top of it, and you can create structures out of it. So that was a good metaphor for what I felt the creative process was, where you sort of weave together insights, ideas, strategic initiatives. You kind of marry the business and the creative side of things, or the clients and the business objectives, and then you sort of daub the magic, the design, the creative, the story over top of it. And that's Waddle and Daub.
Ah. I love the story of your name. Thank you for including that. That is really cool because I was curious to where that came from, and it makes total
Many, many are. Yes, many are.
I was like, is this two last names? Like, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah. In some of the initial brainstorming, I actually had some mascots. A Waddle and Dob, and who knows, this may still sort of come to fruition at some point. But yeah, that was one of the kind of fun, directions that could go in, and maybe still could go in. There's plenty of time for new and fun things to happen.
Definitely. Well, very cool. So, what year did you found the company?
So it was an official LLC in 2021.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was existing as just sort of like an organization tied to my personal information. So probably technically it was begun in like 2014,
Okay.
sometime around then. Unofficially started then.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So now, looking at the company, do you have employees that work with you or yeah, what's kind of the structure there?
Sure. Great question. Yeah. So the world of design, graphic design, is not what it was in the '90s when I was sort of temping for my dad's design studios. Back then, it was dominated by print. The web was sort of this whispered, much like how AI is right now. The web was sort of this like whisper that had just entered the market. And annual reports and printed brochures, and those were the things that were demanding the big bucks. Going to print runs and all those things that are so fun. The such a tactile,
Mhm.
fun world. It's starting to sort of come back here and there. But how we're structured now, or how I've structured myself, is when I decided to go off on my own, I had my clients that I had sort of I had agreements to certain amounts of business that I could take with me, and I had partnerships or I had collaborators. So I have a group of other freelancers or creative minds who we have kind of set up light agreements on kind of work sharing or sort of working, inside of my company when we need to scale up to handle a big client project. So copywriters, a lot of developers who are savvy on a number of different platforms. The main ones right now being Webflow, Shopify, WordPress. Lots of small e-commerce and things like that. And then, a couple other individuals to help with additional design work, production, motion design, things of that nature when we kind of need to ebb and flow to meet the needs. It helps us, in this world of AI now too, helps us stay small, stay nimble, help keep a lot of our overhead costs down, but while still being able to sort of deliver, in a more, in a larger kind of agency type of way.
Oh, nice. Okay. So how many total employees do you have?
So officially just myself, and then at any given project type, again, this is sort of based upon the scale of the project. It could be anywhere from 5 to 12 other freelancers or contractors.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that was kind of was like curious if you had any on like W-2s versus W-9s, but okay, that is super cool, especially as project based. Okay, so
Mhm.
speaking now of projects, so if I was your ideal client and like walked through your doors, checked you out online, how would I know I would be a good fit for you?
Well, do you have a fun and exciting brand or web project? That right there is the very first checkbox to be checked. If so, then we are interested. No, we usually are their typical client base. We work with a lot of startups, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and we offer sort of like the full brand package. Brand refreshes, website redesigns, especially custom CMSs. So our niche and our focus is really on helping organizations build custom brands and experiences to sort of to compete against these larger companies and places that have big budgets that are spending gobs amount of money on huge platforms that, again, I'll save some of my those opinions for maybe another question. Um, but to compete creatively, so there's a slew of templated approaches out there, which are great. That they fill a need in a niche. They empower people to and creators and small business owners to be able to operate and run things on themselves. So it keeps a lot of overhead costs down. Um, but we can come in and we can create, using a lot of those tools like Canva and other things, we can create custom designed experiences, so personalized branded experiences. So it's not the template that the other company down the street is going to be using at the same time. It's not going to be the logo that you put your logo and made it in AI. But guess what? That person over there, they can put the same prompts in their AI to get the same exact logo. So when everybody has all of these wonderful tools, what is your real kind of differentiator in the market? So that's sort of where we come in and we say, hey, we have all the same tools, but we have the creative know-how how to use them and how to make you stand out, so that when everyone else is zigging, you're zagging.
Yes, yes, the staying ahead of the curve, and that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I'm very curious to where do you see the company kind of heading? I know you mentioned that print's kind of coming back. I'm curious about more about that too. I see people want that tactile. But where do you see the company growing in the next, say, 3 years?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So, what I think right now, the thing that tickles my fancy the most is investing in um, our own interests or businesses. So, what you'll see a lot of design studios will do is, so we have a pipeline. I have other partners and individuals who are kind of running their own marketing agencies. I have other creative studios who sort of white label us or black label us as like the creative kind of force behind some of their work. And so they might come to us and say, hey, can we, you know, pay you X amount of money? Can you kind of work, sort of unknown for us and deliver on this project for us that we can then claim and own? It's essentially like a ghostwriter, for a lot of musicians.
Mm-hmm.
We have some of that work that we get, and then we have other open partnerships with other like marketing agencies or ad agencies who, surprisingly, a lot of them don't have their own kind of creative arm. They just have like the strategic implementation part of it. So there's some opportunity there to continue to find those partnerships and kind of scale at that level. There's probably a tipping point where we get enough partnerships that I have to bring on, sort of full time kind of design consultants where I could start to place people sort of sitting, with certain teams and clients or partners that we have more in a full time role. It's hard to know if that's exactly where I want things to go. What really would be fun and what some are doing is this idea of like a startup foundry, where you provide your creative services at a discounted or sort of certain rate for certain agreements, to help businesses, entrepreneurs, sort of build professional level brands to launch their ideas at the kind of best front foot forward, for equity trades or other sorts of kind of investment type things. Those are the opportunities that I really would love to dedicate time towards, as we sort of have our safety net of other kind of projects and clients that we're able to kind of work with ongoing. Those are the ones that are really fun because from a creator standpoint, um, they're kind of like the ocean where you get to jump in, set your course, and you kind of just you have to obviously be very you know what's what I'm looking for, organized and focused, because the ocean is vast and you can get lost very quick. But those are the ones where it just seems like there's this opportunity in front of you all day and night. So yeah, those are the couple of the directions that we've been exploring and finding opportunities right now to sort of begin. But we don't yet know if there's how much more of that kind of exists out there for us yet.
Very cool. I think that's epic. Especially as you're like looking forward and seeing those as the foundry idea is really, that's awesome. So, now looking at, as business owners, it can be a lonely place when, especially when we're faced with challenges. So I love to share what business owners are overcoming as a relatable point for our audience because we're all going through that challenge of being a business owner. So what is something you're challenged with right now in the business?
Oh, well, how much time do we have again? Um, yeah, I mean, this, the truth of the matter is that it's so much fun and exciting, and the freedom is just wonderful, and you really want to fight for it because the idea of having to maybe return to the previous way of doing things, while not terrible by no means, it's hard to kind of give up. So there's so I think recently for us and always is the kind of constant grind to continue to find more work opportunities, because the moment you are complacent with where you're at is the moment that something changes, and all of a sudden you when you lose your focus on growth, and maybe not necessarily growth at sort of like the breakneck speed of expanding to from 1 million to 10 million, um, but just like building continual relationships, finding new opportunities, taking opportunities, even like this one, to just get put yourself out there and make those connections. That's always and will always continue to be the hardest part, because my true passion is in the work of creating the brands, being
Mhm.
involved in, again, in that ship setting sail across the ocean, right? That's where we all want to be. So it'd have to, land to, to keep using the shipping metaphor, to have to like, go to port and have to shake hands and meet people and try and find the next voyage. That's not the fun part. And the moment that you stop worrying about that is where it starts to fall off, and then you'll find yourself in between a rock and a hard place where um, you're not as secure as you once thought. So there's other little bits and pieces there. We could talk about like taxes and having to set up and manage your accounting and books, and all there's a little details in there, but overall, that's the beast that will sink your ship. To keep on this ship metaphor, I guess we're going down this journey here.
I like it. It's a theme. It's
It
good.
is, it is a theme.
I always end up on shoe metaphors for some reason.
Oh, okay, all right.
For some reason. But no, this is great. This has been such a honest, great conversation, especially, sharing about these challenges, sales and finding clients, marketing strategies. Those are things
Yes.
that are definitely real for like it because we have to keep the lights on, It's
Yep.
very true. So now that we've kind of went through the bulk of the podcast, I'd like to dive into our fun rapid fire questions that we talked about before we got on the call.
All right. Oh boy.
Uh, they're fun
It's
and
like The
easy.
Price is Right, or wait, Family Feud, which, yeah, something like that. Yeah, okay. All right.
I wish I could offer you a brand new car.
Hey. Oh, all right.
Yeah, so answer just very top of mind. So question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
Time management. Time management is the number one for me, problem to solve. Is the number one. Time is the seemingly the least thing that I have, day after day, it seems, and it also is what will allow you to continue, if you manage your time effectively, both your work time and your personal time, to avoid burnout, to avoid despair, and going back to kind of like that the machine, or our shipping metaphor of finding more clients and things, the more you get in that hole or where you find yourself in those hard places, your time management starts to easily tip where you work becomes too much of a burden. You're focusing too much on constantly trying to climb and grab and search for, so if you manage your time in the correct way, which helps you build those relationships, post on social media, by all means, continue to share, just put it out there. You never know what will come what will come of it. The better you're able to manage your time and your mental health down the road. So time management is a big theme for success, I believe.
Okay, wonderful. I really appreciate that and agree with that. The second question is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Um, no matter what happens, it will get difficult. Unless you're the luckiest, unless you somehow stumble across like the best, and it's just you just take off but at some point it will get difficult. At some point you will have to kind of turn back inward, grind back through your strategy, rethink who your audience and clients are, reset your strategic initiatives. You'll have to sort of, you know, um, take a look inwards, pause before you continue onwards, and you decide if it is indeed worth it. You can stop and you can, whatever you need to do. And sometimes that's the right thing, depending upon your situation. But just know that it's going to be difficult at times. And usually, um, with hard work and dedication and going back to all those reasons you started in the first place, you can weather a lot of storms.
I was just gonna say weather the storm, and I
Ah,
pictured
yeah, yeah,
it's in
yeah.
there now. We're
I know,
visual
I know,
people.
I know. I can't help it. I love visuals.
Oh, it's awesome. The third question is, it could be a book, a podcast, just like any sort of content that's resonated with you recently.
Um, boy, I have a lot. This is a very nerdy illustration thing. I've been there's these books called How to Think When You Draw. Um, are fantastic. There's an illustrator who sells them on Kickstarter. If ever your kids are thinking about drawing, they're a little like slightly advanced. So if someone shows passion or wants to learn more, they're fantastic. But there's another book that maybe I'll have to come back to that I've been rereading. Oh, it's called How to Get Ideas by Jack Foster. It is a wonderful book that explores just the process of being creative, the what ideas and creativity is, how to sort of make it a process in your life. So
Mm.
it's How to Get Ideas by Jack Foster. It's fantastic, super interesting. It's not too big of a read, and it's really inspiring.
Ooh, might have to write that one down. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good.
And for the final question, feel free to take a little time on this one.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
if I handed you a magic wand and you had the ability to rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Mm, I think I okay. Yeah, you said take your time. Um, don't want to set sail too fast on this one. Uh, I think what I would probably look to improve would be our. Okay, I'll do two. One's very selfish, and one is more like realistic. Realistic one is I would immediately improve our processes for um, starting projects and ending projects. So have being the cobbler with being the shoemaker with no shoes sort of situation where I'd love to pause and spend lots of time preparing, organizing, creating wonderful onboarding documentation and wonderful kind of offboarding process to ramp people up into projects and then smoothly end projects. That's the realistic one that I'd improve. The other selfish one would be that I would ramp up all of the awesome business ideas that I have to be immediately successful so that I could just then focus on doing, the really interesting, fun, entrepreneurial work um, that would just basically give me the ultimate creative freedom. That's the selfish answer.
I like it. I like it. Thank you for sharing those. Those are great. I'm very true. As a creative person, I see myself in those as well. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, check that
I
box.
know, I know, I know.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, Brant, this has been a fun conversation. Before we get to our final question of the day, how can folks get connected with you and your company online?
Yeah, another good question. My website is waddleanddaub.com. That's one way. I post every day on Instagram, Instagram at Waddle and Daub on Instagram. That's probably the best way to stay the most up to date with what we're doing. We love when we partner with companies if they're willing to share the process of creating their brand, their website. Not That's not always possible, and we are very aware of that. Um, but those are probably the two best places. There's other little creative Dribble, Run Dribble, and other kind of creative places, but websites and Instagram would be two best places to start. LinkedIn as well if you're on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now for our final question of the day. What is most inspiring to you today?
Um, well, I mean, I have to say, inspiring to me. My inspiration comes from my dad. My dad was the one who sort of set me on this path. It was always very inspiring, and unfortunately passed away when I was young. Um, but that's I surround myself with his artwork and some of the stuff that he did in his career, and that's kind of who I look back to or try and remember when I kind of run into situations that I remember talking about him with when I was young. And just he would kind of give me the moment he found out that I was interested in design and even in kind of starting my own studio, etc. He just tried to give me as much stuff as I could, which didn't make any sense to me at the time. But over the years, as I've kind of bits and pieces have come back to me, it's been kind of fun to you know relive some of those moments and just kind of keep learning and growing with him. He has one thing. He had a funny kind of fake company he started, he branded when he was running his own studio. It was called Bald Men of America. He also was follically challenged as I am, and he started as a joke. Well, that's one of the I think business ideas that we've been working on to start and launch as like an actual kind of e-commerce product brand line that for to be bald and proud and let your light shine off the top of your head, etc. So yeah, so that those are the fun things that we want to do, and just that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a legacy. That's very cool.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing, again, sharing your story about your business, about where you're going. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.